Hey guys, this is Miss Aijan. Today we're going to talk a little bit about Harry Potter and the genetics in Harry Potter. Before we begin with Harry Potter, let's see if we have a basic understanding of genetics. So if at any point in this revision of keywords you get lost, let's discuss it in class. Please look for me and let's discuss it. So if you understand genetics, all of this will be super easy for you. First, let's talk about an animal cell. Inside the nucleus, we have chromosomes. These little guys in here, we find them in the nucleus. And inside each section of them, we will have genes in each sections, and they will be short sections of the chromosomes that control different features, for example, eye color or hair color. Humans have 46 in total. Another way to see it is that we have 23 pairs. The chromosomes are found in the nucleus, but remember that we have different types of cells. Our bodies have the sex and the normal cells, and the sexual cells will have meiosis. These are the only cells that do, and they end up producing cells that have 23 chromosomes or half the genetic information. The egg, like right here, and the sperm cell. When they join, they produce a baby cell, or another word for it is a zygote, that has 46 chromosomes. So in conclusion, we have 23 and 23, except for the sexual cells. Now here's something new, alleles, because there are many different forms that a gene will be shown in the population. The gene for hair color has blonde, black, brown, ginger, and so many more. All of these different variations of genes, we will call them alleles. So obviously we receive one allele from our mom and one allele from our dad, but whoever has the dominant allele is the one that will be expressed. But how do we write these alleles? We write them and we call the writing of alleles genotypes. Now, dominant allele will be shown in uppercase letters and the recessive allele will be shown in lowercase letters. So say that B is for black hair and little b is for blonde hair. This individual that has two dominant alleles, do you think he will have black or blonde hair? You're right, he will have black hair. This individual that has two recessive alleles, will he have black or blonde? Yes, you're right again, it has blonde hair. But what about this individual that has one dominant and one recessive allele? That one is tricky. Well, turns out that dominant alleles always win. The dominant alleles are so strong that they silence the other allele and it cannot be expressed when there is a dominant allele present. This is the case of people who have black hair but their children have blonde hair, or people who have black color eyes but their children have light color eyes. Is that the case of your family? That is because the recessive allele is carried in silence through generations and then it can show up unexpectedly in some children. Remember again, this is super important, recessive alleles can only be expressed when there are no dominant alleles present. So based on that information, I have a task for you. Consider Harry Potter. Is the magical allele in Harry Potter movies dominant or recessive? Now, here's some information to help you decide. Harry's parents, and this is the main character, Harry Potter, well, both of his parents are wizards, and he is also wizards. Now, Ron, he's a friend of Harry, both of his parents are magical, and also all of his brothers and sisters are witches and wizards. They have another friend who's called Hermione. Now, both of her parents are muggles. They cannot do any magic at all. However, they had a child that had magical abilities. How is that possible? Think about it for a little while. Let's discuss something before we decide if the magical allele is dominant or recessive, although you may have your own opinion already. Here is Harry's mom's family. This is Harry's mother. This is Harry's aunt, Aunt Petunia. Harry's grandparents were not wizards, and Aunt Petunia is not a wizard. The only wizard is Harry's mom. So let's imagine that Harry's grandparents were carrying the gene for generations but not expressing it. So when they have the possibilities of giving the genetics to their children, they can have two dominants, one dominant and recessive, one recessive and dominant, or one recessive and one recessive. Here are all of the possibilities. Now we can easily see in here that if there is even one single dominant one, the recessive will never be expressed. This could be all of the genotypes for Aunt Petunia. However, Harry's mother, Lily, would necessarily have to have the two recessive genes for her to express the magical ability. So now we can conclude the magical allele will be recessive. This one with the lowercase m represented with blue, and the muggle uppercase M will be dominant, represented with an uppercase or a red letter M. Here is another case of the Dursley family. This is the family of Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon, and they had cousin Dudley. Now, we have in here that Aunt Petunia is probably carrying, although she may not, but let's imagine that she is carrying the recessive gene right there. Now, her husband is definitely not carrying the recessive gene. So when they pass their alleles to their children, here are all the combinations that can be possible. And in all of these combinations, is it possible for one of them to be magical? Let's see. Uppercase, 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 lowercase, uppercase, lowercase. None here, lowercase, lowercase. If only one is present, it will be expressed in such a way that it will be so dominant that it will not let the other magical be expressed. So in this case, all of them will be muggle, and Dudley could definitely not be magical because in all cases he has a dominant allele. You guessed correctly. If the parent has both dominant alleles, there is no chance for the child to be magical. Another example is of Mr. and Mrs. Weasley. Here we can see that they share some recessive characteristics, not only the magical abilities which they both have, but also the color of their hair. Notice that most of the color of their hair is very light, which is a recessive trait. Another recessive trait that they carry is the magical gene. So when they pass it on to their children, look at all of the possibilities that can be shown. All of them being magical. Is there a possibility for Weasley's children to be magical? Yes. All of them necessarily will be magical because there is no dominant muggle gene present there. Now Hermione's mom and dad are both muggles, but Hermione is a witch. So some people question how muggles are able to produce magical children. Is it likely that they had a magical ancestor possibly several generations ago? What combination of alleles do you think Mr. and Mrs. Granger have? If you guessed that they have a magical gene hidden somewhere, but that they probably also have an uppercase M, you are absolutely correct. Mr. and Mrs. Granger must both carry the recessive magical gene, but also the dominant, so that they will be muggles, but they can pass to their daughter the witch's gene. Now, is it possible for a child with one magical parent and one muggle parent to be born with magical abilities? Well, look at this. Voldemort was a half-blood, as his father, Tom Riddle, was a muggle, and his mother was a pure-blood. So notice that his father was a muggle, which means that he had the dominant allele, but he was also carrying the recessive allele with him, and his mother was a pure blood. And now you can see that these terms used as insults in the movie, half-blood, pure blood, mud blood, because they are not completely pure as are the other types of blood. Now here's one way to draw a genetic cross diagram. This way in which we see all the possibilities. Another way, which is super easy, is one that I'll show you that is called a Punnett square. So please get ready in your notebook to learn how to draw super easy Punnett squares. Punnett squares are super easy. So let's start with a hypothetical case that we represent Hermione's parents. Remember that both of them were uppercase, lowercase m because they were carrying the recessive gene, although they don't show it in their phenotype. So let's write the genotypes of their mother and their father, uppercase, lowercase m. So here's the mother and here's the father. This is where I'm going to place the mother, and this is where I'm going to place the father. If you want to put the father here or here, it's the same because they each have an equal chance. But let's just, by convention, put the mother over here. Now we're going to drag each letter into the box, first horizontal and then vertical. So let's start in here. First, we're going to drag the M's. These are coming up from here. And then we're going to draw the small case M's coming up from there. And then we're going to drag the other M's going up all the way through here. And then finally, this lowercase m's, we're going to drag them there. So what do we see now? All of the possibilities of the children. Remember in class I told you that females will produce 4 fertile ovules and they will get rid of 3 and they will only keep 1. Well, these are the 4 fertile eggs that a female can have, and this is all of the possibilities that a female may have. So you can see in here, the mother has passed her genes and the father has passed his genes. So if this is 100% of the probabilities of the child, we can divide this squares. 100% divided by 4 will give us 25% in each little square. And here we can see super easy that the only one that could have been a magical wizard is in the last one. 25% chance for this mother and father of having a wizard such as Hermione. So now choose 3 examples of Harry Potter genetics and draw a Punnett square for each one. Please show them in class for extra points. Here you have the possibilities, uppercase, lowercase for the Granger's family or Harry's mom's family, lowercase and lowercase for the Weasleys, uppercase and lowercase for the Dursleys, and uppercase and lowercase for Voldemort's family. Another extension task that you can do for extra point is to write a paragraph to explain how witches and wizards can be born of Muggle parents. This is all for Harry Potter's genetics. Thank you for watching and have a great day.